Chapter 4 The Middle Way. Did you know there are many places a soul can live? You may choose a new city, street, or if you're a small creature, you could even choose your home under a rock bed. You could pick a home among the sea and live near the coral, or you could choose to build a home and exist like many other modern humans in this world. There are different environments for different folks, but why are we here? Would it be possible that life is a big hoax? Well, maybe not a hoax, but what if it's a joke? So many souls get pushed around by life. So is there really any hope? Why don't I read you a quote? The voice on the left spoke. It's from one of my favorite books, Letters of Note. This response was written to a man who had lost faith in humanity. The left hand of God paused, and for the first time there was a great shift inward when I turned the mirror on the left and saw it facing me. Its face had 3 eyes, a crown of skulls, while this left side wore a mask from Nepal with a wrathful expression exposed. And so the left hand of God spoke. As long as there is one upright man, as long as there is one compassionate woman, the contagion may spread, but the scene is not desolate. Hope is the thing that is left to us in a bad time. I shall get up Sunday morning and wind the clock as a contribution to order and steadfastness. Sailors have an expression about the weather. They say, the weather is a great bluffer. I guess the same is true of our human society. Things can look dark. Then a break shows in the clouds, and all is changed, sometimes rather suddenly. It is quite obvious that the human race has made a queer mess of life on this planet. But as people, we harbor seeds of goodness that have lain for a long time, waiting to sprout when the conditions are right. The human curiosity, her relentlessness, his inventiveness, and their ingenuity have led them into deep trouble. We can only hope that these same traits will enable them to claw their way out. Hang on to your hat, hang on to your hope, and wind the clock, for tomorrow is a new day. Stunned by its face, this left side appeared extreme. Why, maybe life wasn't a hoax or a joke, but what if it was something like a play, a dance, or a dream? So what would life mean? And how would it be created like this if we all have to die? Come on, my girl, what's the purpose of our lives? Asked the left hand of God.
There's a better question, and the question is why?
Asked the right hand of God. Turning to the mirror upon the right, there was a stoic face that had also been carved from wood, while both the left and right heads were concealed by masks, covering a certain awareness that could be understood. As many people live in outside places, there was something strange living within. And so we must wonder if both these masks on the left and the right were aspects of higher wisdom. Many people live in front of their eyes, but who lives inside? No longer was I concerned with what was happening outside, but when I looked at life, now we were more curious as to why. Why what? Asked the left hand of God. Why would life grow in various bodies for such a strange occasion?
The reward of life is the walk, not the destination,
said the right hand of God. I agree. The journey triumphs over any location. And as for existence, it's something to be sung for anyone out there to listen. It's what the wind and waves do. They speak to everyone, but only a few of us catch on to their wisdom, said the left hand of God. Instead of focusing on what was outside, there was something living within. What if it used the body that I'd been living in, and it was powered by a force of invisible awareness that we call wisdom? Now this wisdom certainly arrived based on the current state of existence, and whatever questions arose in the mind seemed to refer back to this all-powerful source that was listening. Thinking, thinking, thinking. These inward aspects were always keeping track. They were inside of us all right, but why could I only see their masks? And who was I? And what are we doing here? Yes, you who are listening to this. How did we get so lucky as to have this life appear? There's magic within, and maybe you have also wondered if our world is without hope. But what if our world is not falling apart, but coming together? Now that hidden voice from the very center spoke.
Look out at our world, and what do you see? Do you understand that the outward is a reflection of the inward reality? The reward is the walk, and so life is crafted for the journey. Come here, my daughter. Turn all the way inward, and there you'll find me,
said the woman's voice, after seeing the fierce mask upon the left. Then the gentler path seemed to be the right way, and now I spun all the way around, where the sight drifted through an abyss when bluish eyes appeared around her infinite form that stretched out in an endless display. Fire in her head, the sun and moon his eyes, the heavens her ears, the scriptures his voice, the air her breath, the universe his heart, and the earth was her footrest. The Lord of love is the innermost self. With stars overhead, she was not attached, dark and beautiful, secretive and mysterious. With the left and right hand upon both my shoulders, we were totally perplexed. What do you make of it? Asked the left hand of God. And since we turned all the way inward, the face which started upon my right was now upon the left, and so the fierce face that was on the left before was on the right, as we had all turned 180 degrees to peer inward. Imagine asking to see it all, and not realizing what it all was. Brilliant, grand, and shining spots make a girl curious. But what were we standing in front of? Those had to be her eyes, or how was she up there looking down? From my best guess, she was a blackish blue, but the supernatural feminine could not be lost or found. She was everywhere at once, and a gaze upon her made the mind quit thinking. No logic could understand exactly what it was that all three of us were thinking.
Do search with your sight, but let go of the rest of your senses. Be open to the mystery of life and see past the outward expression in which all matter condenses. Be light like a feather, be mutable like water. Summon earth, air, and fire too, for within you is the endless supply of universal power,
she said. It was silent for some time, and not even the left or right hand of God could see all of her. From her point of view, we were so far below, looking up as we stood upon the world. How do you know she's a girl? What if she's an it? Asked the left hand of God. Is she Mahadevi, or is he Mahadeva? Asked the left hand of God.
Very possible. Hard to understand all of it. I see the feminine out there, but she's more than just this. It's the force beyond the elements, and she is the life giver, so she nurtures the spirit as it transmits,
said the right hand of God. Often we favor one side versus the other. We want to choose left or right. And even though these voices upon our shoulders had an answer to every question I asked, no one knew what to make of this inward sight. Looking all the way within, there was nothing we couldn't see. Yet as we walked upon the earth, it finally hit me. There was something out there that was totally free. That's when she began sparkling. Or maybe this wasn't it. Was it the union of he and her? But whatever it was, I saw the eyes of the universe, and it was total magic. Her universal presence was somewhat sleepy like the moon, and we would never forget this. Who are you? I asked.
Call me Ma, or in ancient Egypt they called me Maat, as I am truth, balance, order, harmony. law, morality, and justice. I regulate the stars and the seasons. I balance what is left and right. I see through all things, all beings, and all life, as I am infinity, and I have infinite sight.
She said. Can I ask you a question? What's the difference between wrong and right?
It's called life. From now on, we won't think about left versus right, good or bad, happy or sad. Be curious. From now on, we'll walk upon the middle way as it leads home to the divine,
said the mysterious voice. And what are we trying to find? Is there something we're trying to do?
Not quite, but it is something we go through,
she replied. How?
Just let go, and I'll show you,
she said. Focused on her eyes, there was an infinite source of life all the way inside. What were we doing within this world? And why would the left and right hand of God wear masks when this woman had nothing to hide? She was the source of all energy, and her transformative features seemed unstoppable.
When we start to let go, we can get afraid of releasing all that we think we know. And even though life can feel like it's taking things away from us, I'm here to remind you how to grow. What you get is this journey. It's the gift from me to you. You choose how it goes, because the choices you make are the path we walk through. Don't pick left, and don't pick right. We take the middle way, since it leads home to the infinite source of the divine light,
she said. The path to the right was tempting. It was trusted and true, filled with goodness, righteousness, honesty, decency, and virtue. Imagine any positive quality, and you'll find it there. Behind the right hand of God was all the goodness that one could hope for. Then there was the path to the left, and I knew it wasn't bad or evil, but it was elusive, and it would teach me in ways the right hand of God didn't dare examine. As the left hand of God dabbled with magic. It wasn't doing anything out of ill will, and it wasn't trying to throw things off, but rather it craved experience and lessons. So the left hand of God was just fine, pushing us into chaos. This left hand of God would drink any poison. It would ingest plants that alter the mind to let the soul detach and wander. The left hand of God behaved in a bizarre fashion just to intrigue a sense of universal wonder. These seemed to be two different paths, but how come they never told me about the middle way? It seemed that this path was not something they understood, and when it came to anything I'd asked, I always trusted what they had to say. But why were they perplexed now? How come they didn't have an answer for this? And so all three of us sat upon my head and shoulders while we wondered, just what exactly is this? And if not for the right, I couldn't appreciate the left. And if not for the left, I wouldn't have the imagination to perceive a universe that's so vast and complex. The right hand of God behaved with logic. It was smart and articulate. It was fatherly and safe. It had taken a decent form, and we had to turn right to see the mask covering its face. Then the left too was carved from wood, and this left side didn't mind trouble, but rather the left hand of God seemed to walk right into storms, harm, problems, and conflicts because it loved learning. It would push us to new lows, then pull us to new heights. It was mercurial in nature, much like a flame burning bright. Maybe the right hand of God was like earth and fire, then maybe the left was like air and water, as it was mutable in direction. Together we discovered a middle perspective to come together, where we found ether, the spiritual ingredient. This is the nature of our soul, and the ones who protect this are called kami. This is the essence of sacredness, which stands guard around heaven, or as some call it, the kingdom of Shambhala. This is the convergence of spiritual and temporal. It's the discovery of sacredness within daily life. It's the middle path between the left and the right. Drala, or the sacred spiritual world, is the elemental presence that comes through sense perceptions. When we open to trees, leaves, creeks, or clouds, we can encounter a living wisdom, an ancient being, one that is not separate from your own soul. So next time you stand over a river, can you see yourself going by? Next time you see a bird high in the sky, can you remember how it is our living wisdom that flies? There are moments that arise in daily life where the most insignificant things remind us of the sacredness within our nature. We can walk and feel a gust of wind, and in that magical moment, as a product of the simple event, we can feel enchanted as if under a spell. This sacredness is seeing what lives within the wind, the trees, the earth, ourselves, and everything. And when we realize this, these simple enlightening events are known as Dralas. Surely she was a Kami, the mother of Dralas, and as I looked at her, I was not separate. And so for a moment, I understood that within all of us was a state of existence called heaven, where the soul could rise into the kingdom of Shambhala. So then life isn't about picking either side, but rather we are called to walk the middle way, together as one. The right allows me to follow, but the left will not quite obey. Great Drala used this body, carry us as one together. We will come together in the center and take part upon the middle way, now and forever. And so the eyes of the universe peered down, yet she took no shape. This Kami was beyond us, yet impossible to escape. The infinite nature of her totality appeared like cosmic clouds when it revealed a giant's face. There she was, a Kami, and her secret power was called harmony. "We know who you are. You are a Kami," said the left hand of God.
She is more than just that. She is him, the great king, Maharaji,
said the right hand of God. "The mother of all saints, the soul of life that everything embodies. He is the father of everyone, the Lord and the goddess of all priests, teachers, prophets, gurus, and swamis," said the left hand of God. "Then we will honor her. It's the way we must start the day. I've always known I should respect both the right and the left hand path, and so we must come together and take the middle way. Now what do you say?" I asked both hands of God. "You are sincere on this path. I will go with you as long as you trust that I'm here to help us conquer the things we fear. I'll make sure that you don't become an addict to righteousness like the right hand of God. And so I'll be here to question the mystery before us, since she is not for any one side, but rather she is the holy prayer," said the left hand of God. "And she's not something we can reclaim or make our own, but rather I agree, the left and right sides of God can come together into harmony."
Let us come together. We will walk the middle way.
She said. "But how?"
Learn in each moment. Be a full-time learner. It's about being open to everything in front of you, which goes beyond being a careful observer. You must participate. You have to learn for an entire life. The middle way is a balance between the left and the right. Only we can walk it. Only we can discover who we really are. This is the path of unity, of clarity and wisdom. Listening to intuitive guidance beyond the mind that emerges as intuition. All-encompassing, what you retain is our growth. And just like the ocean, we go with the tide. And in this flow, we learn to let go. Not thinking of what's past or planning for what's next, just letting go of it. That's how you know it, when you let go of it. Watch it come, let it pass. Be here in the moment, because that's when we arrive at last. It's that universal connection, when that which is below unites with that which is above. Some call it spirit, Kami, or Drala, and yet it is the miracle of love.
she said. What she embodied was an aspect of life that was not separate from the left, right, or middle of me. Although I could not see her entirely, she was the first glimpse into infinity. Discovering infinity, there is a sense of continuity, because here we transcend the fear of birth, death, illness, and any kind of pain. There is a constant living force, an electric experience that allows us to realize we alone are not existing, but rather the world lives and exists, and therefore the world is within.
Take this,
She said. There the face of infinity handed us the sun. Glowing and radiant, we raised the left and right hand of God to hold the sun overhead.
She has power because she is detached from all things and therefore one with them. She does not want to hold any kind of position as a powerful person, and that is why she holds the power. You are an indestructible holder. You have attained the state of eternity. You have no fear of exploring the world of birth and death, of passion or aggression. Instead of seeing the world as a threatening situation, you see it as our home. That is how you come to carry my infinity, which is quite different from the state of perpetuating ego. Ego needs to maintain itself constantly. It constantly needs further reassurance. But in this case, through transcending materialism, you do not pretend to be something. You are something. You have not tried to con your existence. You are not looking for a quick fix or an easy way. You are not hooked on bliss or purity, but instead, we are digging into life's irritations. You dive into the irritations and make a home out of that. And because you are able to do that, the irritations become a source of great joy, transcendental joy, because there is no pain involved at all. This principle belongs neither to the left or the right. It is a principle that accommodates everything that exists within our life situations,
said the kami. With the sun in our hands, there we touch the great light, and this sense of radiance emitted through the mind, which cast forth new sight. Are you a saint?
It would be helpful to discuss the idea of a saint. In the Christian tradition, a saint is considered someone who has direct communication with God, who is perhaps intoxicated by God, and is able to give out certain reassurances to people. People can look to a saint as an example of higher consciousness or higher development, whereas when we look to infinity, spirituality is quite different. It does not have the principle of an external divinity. Thus, there is no possibility of getting promises from the divinity. This approach is connected with awakening within oneself rather than relating to something external. A saint in this context is someone who lives an example and reveals how a completely ordinary, confused human being can wake themselves up through the journey of life. Here, a saint uses pain, suffering of all kinds, the misery, and the chaos to awaken their soul. This suffering shakes them, and having been shaken, they begin to question by asking, who am I? What am I? How are all these things happening? Then they go further and realize that there's something in them that is asking these questions. Something that is, in fact, intelligent and not exactly confused. This is a saint's awakening,
she said. But as there is a source of infinite wisdom, I myself, as this witness observing all of this, am still confused by it. How do I make sense of all the chaos and confusion of my life? I must admit, I really don't enjoy awakening into it.
Let nothing threaten us. Everything is an experiment. The greater the chaos, the more our challenges become an ornament. Though we may feel caught in separateness, in duality, we can discover the experience of being awake, of realizing the wakefulness within us. When we are awakening, we begin to develop some sense of space between the experience and the projection of what the mind is seeking to explain. We may have an opinion how we dislike an experience that's happening to us, but in truth, we are becoming sane through such an awakening. If we step back from our mind's projections, when we witness and notice the inner workings of the mind, its comments, and all that it says, we become involved in a more expansive relationship, which brings a sense of space and openness. It's like when we are just about to say something. First, we have to experience the unsaid thing. We feel the space of what hasn't been said yet. That sense of openness is like emptiness. It is the sense of fertile emptiness. Next is the borderline between fullness and emptiness. It is a kind of affirmation of the existence of emptiness, and there is spaciousness where emotions begin to arise. Whatever we feel, be it anger or joy, it begins to grow out from us, but still there is a journey forward giving birth to this emotion. At last, we have the emanation or manifestation. If we think in terms of real birth, at first the womb is empty, next a child begins to grow, and lastly is when a child is ready to be born, yet the umbilical cord is not yet cut to separate it from its mother and father. This is parallel to the birth of emotions that come from the inside to the world outside,
she said. And in the same way, you're speaking of how thoughts arise in the mind. First it is empty, then something begins to form, and finally our voice explains what feelings we came to find.
What this means is that through awakening, we are going through a journey, a certain birth, to which your wakefulness is rising. To come to this point, in between the emptiness and the complete manifestation, we require the discovery of fearlessness, and that is why I give you the sun. Often teachings speak of gaining experience, growing old, gaining information, building yourself up higher and higher until you become a great scholar. But as far as we are concerned, awakening is not about collecting stuff. We are only interested with purely experiencing life situations, much like a spontaneously existing infant who is willing to be curious forever,
she said. With the sun between both hands, it was balanced in the middle between the left and right hands of God. The rays of light granted us the youthfulness of the enlightened state of being. This youthfulness is the immediacy of experience, which has an exploratory quality of living.
All discovery is related with energy that feeds us constantly. So each time you explore, you gain more soulful health. It is time to go off and wander. Be curious as you hold the sun in our hands, which is the essence of all spiritual wealth,
she said.